Greetings fellow gamers. In the last video, I spoke about my two most favorite survival games of all time. One was Vintage Story, the scrumptious subject of the previous video, and, as promised, now I'm going to talk about absolute peak cinema. Peak cinema in question is, of course, Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. A game that is so overlooked, so misunderstood, and so massively slapped on, a game that literally gets updated every 3 hours or so, a game that is entirely community run, a game that has more content than all of survival games combined, and of course, a game that is completely free. Now that all sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Well, in that case, why does nobody talk about this game? Well, that's pretty simple, because it looks like this. And that is with a tile set, because if you strip the game naked, it looks like... because you need 10 key combination for basic tasks, because it is extremely hardcore and unforgiving, and overall, a very difficult game to sink your dirty nails into, especially by a casual, mainstream gamer, you know who I'm talking about. The moment I first saw this game, which was a while ago by the way, for some reason, even then, I saw something past the ugly cover. I wanted to get into this game, and oh boy, did I. I have no clue how many hours I have sunk into this game over the many years I played it, but it's probably at least 500. So you may be rightfully asking, what can this Excel sheet looking game possibly offer to make it worth playing? Well, grab on tight to your protruding length as I attempt to brainwash you into playing this masterpiece. First things first, especially if you already find it very hard to be convinced that a game that looks and plays like this can in any way be worth your time, I want you to close your eyes and let your imagination run through as I give you a simplified summary of Cataclysm so that you may understand what it is exactly you'll be rewarded with if you overlook the graphical fidelity of the game, or lack thereoff, and allow yourself to be grounded in the content. So here goes nothing. Cataclysm is a roguelike survival game with permadeath, a game where you generate yourself a world from scratch and create one of many possible starting scenarios for your character, get stuck in an extremely detailed character creator, and be thrown into the open world where you can do pretty much anything you want. The only objective you have in this world is to stay alive, creating your own story in the process. The game has the biggest and most detailed crafting mechanic I've ever seen in any other game, by far. Endless amounts of items and weapons. The game has faction mechanics, an RPG NPC dialogue. You can form your own faction, recruit survivors, do quests, create camps and bases, trade and deal with other factions. The game has an insane amount of monsters, creatures and animals. You'll be surviving against zombies with shit ton of variety, aliens, eldritch creatures, hellspawn, hostile humans, anomalies, mutants, and of course the worst creature imaginable, yourself. The game has realistic time, player needs, the most detailed limb-based health system, deeply detailed vehicle systems, and the amount of vehicles ranging from bicycles to fucking helicopters, gun variety and equipment customization that can rival Tarkov, realistic knowledge and skill learning, and my favorite part, the world feels so realistically generated. Numerous types of buildings and the cities are as large as actual cities, and every building is filled to the brim with actual items, like not just essentials, you know, actual items used by humans in appropriate locations, which makes the buildings actually feel like they were used by actual living people. And when it comes to actions you can commit, the game basically follows the following formula. If you think you can do it, you probably can. Unless the engine literally doesn't allow for it to happen yet. Well, there you go, there's your quick summary. Now grab that knob out of your mouth and go play the game. Thank you for watching. Now, as for the non-iPad kids who are still watching, let me stroke you a little further with my ultra glazing of this game. And by a little further, I of course mean quite a bit further. Because buckle up, Diddy Blood, as I'm going to go through why Cataclysm is the best survival game ever made in much greater detail. But before I do that, let me remind you that I stream here on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes the weekends. So make sure to tune in and watch me play literally anything, from old ass games to multiplayer sessions with viewers or even some random RTS shenanigans, just to name a few. Anyways, back to peak days ahead. First things first, you have to get the game. There are actually multiple ways of doing so. You can just manually download the latest build from GitHub, or download a launcher such as Catapult or Kitten that conveniently auto-update the game for you, and you can just play the newest version whenever you want with just one press of a button, or you can choose to buy the game off of Steam to support the developers. Now, there are multiple versions and forks of the game, 3 of which are the most popular ones. Dark Days Ahead is the main and the most often updated version of the game, while the other 2 popular forks are Bright Nights and The Lost Generation by Wormgirl. I will be focusing my entire review on the base game of Dark Days Ahead, as that is my preferred version to play. I also play using a launcher, in my case the Kitty launcher, because obviously that is the most convenient way to play the game. After you open the launcher, you're instantly met with the choice of either playing the stable branch branch or the experimental branch of the game. The difference is that stable is, well, stable, much less buggy, and a lot more play-tested version of the game that also recently got a big update, while experimental is the version that gets updated hourly. I literally had a moment where I installed experimental, had to go take a shit, and then I returned and had to update the game again. Basically, if you want the most stable experience, you play stable, but if you want the most up-to-date experience no matter what, you play experimental. But know that you risk running into game-breaking bugs and can potentially lose or break your save file with an update. You also download one of the available sound packs, which is basically the sound effects, music, and the atmosphere of the game, because by default the game is actually mute. And so you finally launch the game. You're instantly once again met with an 80s looking main menu. The settings are overwhelming, the controls are oh god. But first thing you want to do is select the tile set. I personally prefer Altica. I think it looks sleek as fuck. If you don't select the tile set, let me remind you that the game will look like this. Now we're going to make a world, so select all of the parameters and mods you like, and the game will generate a fully random world just for you. It's gonna be set in modern day New England, United States. And now we get to the most interesting part. You are going to select a starting scenario for your character from a massive variety of choices. Are you a prisoner in a jail cell, a survivor stuck in an evac shelter, or a fast food mascot escaping hell? Each scenario then has a follow-up choice of who you are in that particular scenario. For example, if we pick a lab scenario where you're a scientist, an experiment, or a security guard. Other scenarios have unrestricted roles, like say, as the Cataclysm begins, you're just a bloke in your house, and you can literally be anybody. And god, there are so many roles. When they say you can be anybody, they mean you can be anybody. Roles range from serious shit like military sniper, a hazmat unit, or a fucking hitman, to mundane stuff like a cop, or a tailor, an electrician, or a gamer, to batshit insane roles like lost submissive and a shower victim. You then go through an even larger list of hobbies, all of which affect your character's skill and knowledge, and you can select as many of these as you want. And I mean, there's literally any skill you can imagine. And every single one of these skills actually affects your character. They're not just there for whatever. Even shit like, oh, he was good at trivia, well, that gives you better memory and social skills. You also then increase or decrease the base stats, and then you go through another massive list of buffs and debuffs, making the perfect roleplay character. He can be tough and pretty, but a bit of a narcoleptic. He can be quick and fleet-footed, but jittery and, let's say fucking deaf. You get the idea. Then there's yet another list of skills you give your character, relating mostly to combat and crafting. You then can customize your character's gender, age, blood type, and their appearance in great detail. And of course, you finally name them. Oh, and you can select any time period you want for the game to start in, as in how long after the cataclysmic event does the game start. Now, how does the game work? Well, you start in your perfectly designed scenario and you try to survive. You cannot leave the game without saving it, which means you're basically playing an obligatory Iron Man mode. And if you die, your character gets deleted, but not the world. And if you have a faction of your own with NPCs, you can choose to continue playing as one of the NPCs after your death. So what is the plot of Cataclysm? From your point of view, when you start the game, all you know is that suddenly one day everything went to total shit. That day known as the Cataclysm. The first thing people notice is that their friends and family got black goo coming out of their eyes and mouth as they started attacking each other. The whole world breaking into a zombie outbreak, and to make matters worse, portals into different dimensions began opening, bringing in aliens and otherworldly horrors, which instantly brings the world to extinction. Now how that happens is up to the player to figure out if they manage to live long enough, or you can just sit in the shelter and chew on cardboard all day. The choice is yours. I think that Cataclysm's lore is incredibly interesting and is one of the best depictions of an apocalypse, as once you get to know it, it makes perfect sense how the world fell apart so quickly. Now we finally get to play the game, guys. Oh my god. Which means I have to make my own character. So here we go. Meet Jack, a 24-year-old exceptional gigachad from Berkshire, New England. He loves baking, reading, DIY crafts, a frequent attendee to the gun range, and a big nerd for medieval martial arts. But outside of the hobbies, he's also a young up-and-coming journalist. He believed in government conspiracies about researching alien life form and wanted to investigate it, for which he was promptly detained and sent to Cherryfield prison. And unluckily for us, this is when the Cataclysm starts. Prison is generally a very high-risk, high-reward place to spawn in. You're locked in with numerous amounts of zombies, a lot of who have police riot gear, while you yourself have absolutely nothing. So one wrong move and you're baby on Epstein's Island. My game starts with Jack locking himself in the prison cafeteria. A good choice. Food is plenty, lots of sharp objects to defend ourselves. But me, nah, I quickly began smashing the nearby table for a bunch of planks and splinters, and I fancy it all into a large wooden club. So we peek through the metal barred and windows, and we already see that the zombies have spotted us. They won't break through the bars, but they sure as hell can break through those wooden doors. So we sit there for a bit as we hear groaning, moaning, bashing and smashing all around us. Knowing that sound could very well be the dead breaking through the door to taste our hog. So to avoid zombies coming in and cornering us, we decided to break from the cafeteria first. The doors are locked and we got no time to lockpick them, so we just use our wooden club to bash through the door. But all my plans are foiled by this fucking at letter. Now you may be wondering, why is there a clearly angry letter at looking at us? Well, that is what happens when the tile set you use has a missing sprite for an entity. I still think Eltica is the best tile set for CDDA, but it does have some missing sprites for more recent enemies and items. But honestly, this is a very rare occurrence, so let's just roll with it. This letter at is actually a feral prisoner. Ferals are different from zombies. So zombies are corpses that are brought back to life, while ferals are still living humans who are infected with the blob, but retain all their human functions and strength, which means they can run, use weapons, throw things at you, and interact with the environment, like opening doors, making them much more threatening than the undead. So we quickly hide in the pantry in hopes that he fucks off. I then bolted out the door and rushed into the prison courtyard, alerting 2 of the zombie guards. And here's the moment where I thought was the right time to defend ourselves and begin clearing out the prison. You see, the prison is probably one of the best possible locations for a camp, so I was considering clearing it out from the zombies, repairing and fortifying it. After very carefully playing a game of back and forth with the zombies, surviving a couple of risky grabs, we managed to bring him down, and we move on to keep clearing, as we got quite a bit of work ahead of us. In Cataclysm, by default, zombie bites do not infect, so you're not as scared of their touch as per se you would be in a game like Project Zomboid. But even normal zombies really like to grab you. Even worse, when there are multiple of them pinning you down. Then they tear you to shreds rather quickly. As you get hurt, you open your eyes and you realize just how intricate and detailed the limb-based damage system is. Like, it's not just limbs, it's literally every part of your body. Your heels, your fingers, your toes, your knees. The hitbox details are insane. There's also the moment you learn about durability, as your weapons gets damaged with every swing, and your clothes get more and more ripped as you get lunched on. As one of the guard zombies holds me down, another prisoner arrives, and here's our first near-death experience. I'm very low on stamina, which means soon I won't be able to resist their vicious assault and just allow them to have their way with me. I need to waste my last bit of stamina to get away and rest. As I broke free from their grasp, I got ambushed by a walking pyro fetish. As I quickly turned right, my stamina now almost at 0, I could already sense myself become a target of the next incredibly gassy video, as this fat fuck would consume me and turn me into nothing but gases in his stomach. But with absolutely last bit of determination, Jack manages to break free and climb over the wire fence. By the time zombies broke it down, I have already climbed the next fence and went around the southern cell block, back where I killed the first 2 guards, to decimate their corpses with a club. Why? Because if you don't turn corpses into absolute mush, they come back to life again. Upon looting the corpses, I smile with glee as I see PX4 Storm magazines, which then quickly fades as I realize it's just the mags and he didn't actually have a gun on him. But all these zombies have riot gear on, which we can clean and use for ourselves. Well, why not just wear it as is right now? Well, because it's nasty and filthy, and wearing it makes our character extremely uncomfortable to the point of terrible mood swings, which, when all things considered, is the last thing we need to add to our already perilous situation. As we turn the corner, the same gassy tree already makes a return, so now we make our stand. Just kidding, I don't, as I realize that my wooden club is hanging on by thin threads, and the next hit will definitely snap it in half. Since I got nothing else on me, I took out a heavy-duty flashlight that I looted off the dead cop, and proceeded to bash the fatty's head in. It took quite a bit, but my trusty torch did the job eventually. I sprinted back to the cafeteria to find myself a better tool for diplomacy, but fuck me, the zombies have already made their way inside, so while the prisoner zombie climbed the kitchen counter for whatever the fuck reason, I grabbed the closest thing I found, which, lucky me, was a butcher knife, which, to my surprise, does a lot of damage. A lot more than I expected, so I started slicing, killing zombies with ease, until a big chode of a tough zombie walked in. I mean, look at him. He looks like eating me is not what he intends to do. Not at first, at least. So I braced myself for a fight, dodged every single one of his advances, and killed him unscathed. Unfortunately, at this point, I have made enough noise to attract every zombie in the prison that isn't locked away, and they just kept coming in. It is chow time in the cafeteria, and I was the dessert. But Jack was too good for them. With every careful dodge, getting high ground whenever I could, I managed to fight off the guests. God bless my butcher knife. After smashing all of their corpses into pulp and gaining access to the prison workshop, I have gotten myself a wooden axe, which was the perfect opportunity to start clearing out the cell blocks. By lockpicking the metal doors from an improvised lockpick I made from kitchen utensils and metal scrap, and unfortunately the guards just flock out in droves. The more we kill, the more we loot. We find ourselves more useful shit: guns, tools, belts, bandoliers, riot gear, helmets, you name it. I also made it to the armory, which means we get ourselves a clean, fresh suit of riot gear. Now, you also learn just how awesome the clothing system is. You can put on as much clothing as you want with endless endless layers as you would be able to in real life. The only limits are your personal encumbrance, temperature, and comfort. You can put on every bandolier, vast clothing layer, and armor layer imaginable, but don't expect your guy not to evaporate from all the heat he is emitting in such drip, or not even being able to dodge a snail. You finish clearing the cell blocks, visit the maintenance tunnel downstairs, kill a couple of zombie technicians, and holy fuck, we're done. The prison has been conquered. It is ours. As I walk outside of prison for the first time, I smell America, and shit myself from excitement as I get inhumanely lucky with my spawn, as there is a high-tier military base right next to me. It is going to be a nightmare to clear out, but it has endless supplies and weapons. Besides, we also have a tiny town of Cherryfield west of our prison camp, so plenty more to loot there too, but all that can wait a while, as it is time to titty this place up and turn it into a worthy base. We dismantle the furniture for resources, craft and rebuild new doors and new fences, drag all of the zombie corpses into a pile for easy sorting, strip them all of everything we consider useful, and throw all of the dirty clothes into my laundry pile. I repurposed most of the areas for their intended use, such as the workshop being used for crafting, the infirmary for storing medicine, and now, until I get enough materials to craft myself some lockers, we will just use the cafeteria for all manner of storage. Now this is before you learn about auto-sorting your loot, which is a life-changing experience and saves you a lot of time, so until you learn how to do that, you do everything by hand. You craft an extra large wooden box to carry heavy shit and begin hauling back and forward, back and forward, back and forward, while taking naps in between, reading books from the prison library and get smarter, and munching through the prison food supply. The more activity you do, the more permanently tired your character gets, which only resets after you sleep. Eventually, after I felt like I have done enough of base work, I finalized the creation of my faction camp, and decided to begin exploring. Some of our main priorities are a source of power, so that we can actually power up our fridges and prevent food from spoiling. The best way of doing that is to get solar panels and electric generators. So we jolly walk outside and oh fuck, it's a giant web-spinning spider. And as I attempt to lure it in and lock into the reception room, I peek outside and fuck me, I see many more web-spinning spiders coming my way. Mutated giant insects are very problematic in the game. Some spit acid, some sting with poison, and some straight up plant their babies inside of you. With some trickery and window bars, we shoot all of the spiders away, eventually clearing the path to the nearest pond, where I bring all the dirty zombie clothes and start washing it all with some soap. I also found out that I have a functional prison bus. Well, barely functional, but functional nonetheless. This would be the point where you decide to inspect your first vehicle and see just how detailed the customization and controls are. And your first thought isn't, oh god, this is so cool, there's so many things. It is actually, oh god, so many things that can go wrong with my car. There's also a mine nearby and a bunch of broken cars, and oh look, a cabin. Let us venture inside and loot it for all we can carry. There's also a fully clean and functional quad bike over here. What a lucky find. Jack quickly prioritizes stocking and clothes from the wardrobes and the drawers, and this is the point where you realize that most of it is poor fit, as the clothes actually have dimensions in this game. Well, no matter, we'll load it all into the quad bike regardless, as maybe, even if we can't wear it, our future NPC companions might. So now let's check the other part of the house. And there it is. Congratulations, the end of your playthrough. You open the door with two bandits aiming their weapons right at you. They heard you barged into their home and stood there quietly waiting for the right moment. A dude named Mohammed is pointing his 30-06 bolt-action rifle at you, while a crazy bitch named Ashley in transgender flag stockings is pointing a low-caliber pistol at you. The exact moment you move is the moment your name becomes a campfire story. But it's okay, you just start over. New character, new background, new location, new gravestone. Your story may have ended, but mine didn't, because I jumped back on the ATV and drove off until I found a horde of 11 giant spiders. I attracted them to the bandit's house with gunshots and watched as the spiders flooded into the house. At first, silence, and then a smile escapes me as I hear a desperate gunshot. It has begun, and just as quickly, it has ended. I return later to clear out the spiders, and then I find them laying there. I loot two unlucky losers, and that is because Jack is badass. And guess what? To this day, Jack is still alive and thriving. I have found many survivors and convinced them to join my camp. Jack fully cleared out the military base, acquiring an infinite supply of American military weaponry, uniforms, armor, gear, and MREs for years. I also cleared out Cherryfield, the mine, and a couple more locations. I ran into a couple of factions, such as the boring-ass refugee center and a cool-ass laboratory, working with both to trade and do quests for them for rewards. Some of the refugee quests are ridiculous, like this fuckwit who is wearing a T-Rex costume and wants you to bring him cardboard to build a cardboard castle. A grown-ass man, by the way, in the apocalypse. Fuck. So after all that experience, why exactly is City 8 the best survival game in my opinion? Put it simply, endless content and endless freedom of action. Of course, the best way to explain would be to compare. So what does City 8 have over, say, Project Zomboid? Zomboid has multiplayer and is also real-time, not turn-based. Zomboid also has some of the best zombies in modern gaming, as well as how well thought out they are. But that is the thing, Zomboid is just zombies. You fight the same zombies over and over until you clear them out eventually. And you play on the same pre-made map. Meanwhile, in City 8, zombies are the least of your concerns, as you run into fucking xenomorphs, giant wasps that try to impregnate you, and really hateful computers, just to name a few.
Please do not do this to your computer. It's not good. Look at what he did to his PC.
You also have human roleplay interactions, faction mechanics, something heavily missing from Project Zomboid. You have extremely well generated world maps, different every single time, and always new things to explore. Now, what does City 8 have over, say, DayZ? I think DayZ isn't as bad as a lot of people credit it. In my opinion, DayZ has one of the best first-person survival elements and mechanics, incredible player-to-player interactions, and overall great health system. What makes DayZ suck is that there is no Z in DayZ. Zombies are terrible and are no threat whatsoever. You can literally just block and walk backwards or lock them in rooms, and that's it. But that's not even the worst thing. By far, the most offensive thing Bohemia Interactive has done with DayZ is just recycling maps and assets. They're doing it again with Badlands. It's just the exact same Pakistani 2011 assets from Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead, and then they resell it for quite a buck. And every building you enter in DayZ is empty and void of logic. A random gun laying on the floor, a random jacket on the bed, and that's it. The placement doesn't make a pinch of sense. And don't get me started on the settlement sizes. Chernaris looks like the entire map is meant to house no more than 20,000 people at best. Cities like Chernogorsk and Elektrozavodsk are meant to be large cities, but they're rural towns at best. Meanwhile, in City A, each building is absolutely filled to the brim with logical placement of items. Open a wardrobe and you'll find heaps of clothing. Look at the bookshelves, find rows of books. Open the fridge to find it stuffed with rotten food. Check the cupboards for silverware. Check the closet boxes for tools. You get the idea. Houses and locations in City A feel alive and used. Despite this game looking like this, and this game looking like this, you find yourself a million times more immersed while playing City A, because everything just feels so believable. Oh my god, the cities are so fucking large. Cities are actually city-sized. I feel like they can house dozens of thousands of people, if not 100,000. There's so many cities generated with numerous building types, all of which make perfect sense. Restaurants, gun shops, pizzerias, grocery shops, supermarkets, churches, sex shops, and so on and on. Cities feel real, the locations feel real. The game never gets boring or repetitive, as the more you survive, more and more things just keep happening. Anomaly storms, portals opening up, evil-ass creatures spawning in, literally fucking voices trying to communicate with you, warp holes to hell appearing, reality tearing. Also, when I say there's an absolute ridiculous amount of creatures, zombies, NPCs, and entities in the game, I mean it. Like 50 zombie types, if not more. Some become so mutated, turn to SCPs. The game has a detailed body enhancement system, cyberpunk style, with bionic and mutated upgrades. All guns and ammo are real and use real names. There's hundreds of guns in the game, all of which also make perfect sense. You'll find guns actually used by American police on cops, and standard-issued firearms used by US Army on soldiers, and so on. All civilian, sport, and foreign stuff, like say a Mosin gun, can be found in houses or a gun shop. It is just so fun to arm your companions to the teeth, give them combat orders, and go clearing out and sweeping locations from hordes of undead together, leaving no stone unturned, as it is definitely not something you can do in every game. Also, the crafting and cooking is insane. So many endless combinations of things you can make, and endless amounts of books you can read to make literally anything. For example, you can find a book on Bronze Age weapons and armor in a library, which teaches you how to make ancient Egyptian and Greek weapons like Khopesh sword, or a full-on ancient Greek panoply. The game is also gut-wrenching every time you approach a near-death experience and are forced to fight at the skin of your teeth to survive each encounter, knowing that death means the end of your character for good. Especially with how the closer you get to the late game, the scarier the threats become. While every game does something good and every game does something bad, I think besides visuals, City 8 does everything excellently. There's something in this game for everybody, and I guarantee you, once you get over the visuals and overcomplicated controls, you will learn not just to love Cataclysm, but be addicted to it for the rest of your life. Well, that about concludes all I wanted to say, so thank you for watching this cringy review, and comment down what other games you would like me to take a look at next. Stay healthy, gamer, and I'll see you next time. A very special thanks to Sniper Monkey, Mr. Pratt10, Corny, Super Cheppy, Skook, Saratokai, Another Foxboy, Magister Generalis, Princey, Candy's Back, Friend, Waiter89GG, Choo Choo Spilex, Sensei Nunya, Random Guy 21, Shmoowick, and Potty Rumple for being a Brolic Tier 4 member. I love you.